She's an award-winning work psychologist who has led workplace mental health strategy in senior leadership roles at various organizations, including Sun Life Financial. She's a past director on the boards of the Canadian Psychological Association and the International Association of Applied Psychology, and an active member of the Global Clinical Practice Network of the World Health Organization. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Pelletier.
Thank you, Teresa. C'est un plaisir vraiment d'être ici avec vous tous et vous toutes. I almost died. I almost drowned trying to cross a raging river, a river that I had successfully crossed days before. So I was really not expecting this. It came as a surprise. And I did not die, obviously. But situations like this, as scary as they are, and for me it was after, because during happened so fast, they can be a gift. And for me, it was a gift, a lesson, my personal lesson in dynamic resilience, particularly the importance of proactive action. Now, dynamic resilience sounds pretty good, but what do we mean by this? Well, dynamic refers to movement. We're changing, we're evolving, we're in evolution, and it also refers to elasticity and positive energy. And resilience refers to going through adversity, persisting, and coming out even stronger, and refers to changing shape. Right? And you don't have to have gone through a raging river and almost drowned to optimize the benefits of resilience. But let me ask you a couple of questions. In the past 2 years, particularly in your work environment, would you say that you've taken life by the horns? Avez-vous pris le taureau par les cornes? Have you welcomed challenges with joy and energy? Or have you felt like your life and the world around you was like quicksand under your feet? For many of us, including me, at times it felt like this. And I come with encouraging news. Resilience is a science. It is an empirically validated science with evidence that brings us information about protective factors, things we can do that will nourish our resilience now and build it moving forward. And when we're talking about personal and professional resilience, they are all together because we're all in one person. So everything comes together, both the work side and the non-work side. And in all this research, it points to those factors which are influencing the work bottom line, what you're doing, what the bottom line of your teams, of your organizations, and possibly the most important bottom line, your life. And in the research, what we see is that uncertainty, lack of control, they're not new. They were there before. We're experiencing these things more frequently and with more chronicity. What does change are the stressors and the context. And these are some of the lessons I learned the hard way when I almost died trying to cross a river. Nick and I, my husband, we were doing a fair bit of mountaineering, and we had decided to go do an 8-day traverse in the Canadian Rockies. And it was late June of a year that had received a lot of snow, so we were going to be on packed snow for most of this. So we get started, end of day 1, we get to this river, 3-4 meters wide, but it is a wild traverse. There's no human-made structure on the traverse, so to cross the river, you have to go in the river. So Nick and I step into our roles. Who's going to do what first, second, plan A, plan B, what if this, what if that, the whole thing. Then Nick goes, crosses the river, okay? Then it's my turn, and we've got ski poles and everything. Cross the river, success. We keep going. So day 2, day 3, day 4. By day 4, we're fairly high up in the Rockies. They basically look like when you fly over them, just rocks. No snow anymore, no river, no water. And it's late June, 30 degrees every day, 8-hour walks, heavy backpack. I got severely dehydrated to the point where we had to stop, try to see if we could bring enough health into me to keep going. But even if we did, it is a traverse, so we don't know when there's going to be water. And so I was feeling not so well, but I was also feeling frustrated that I could not just will myself to keep going. We had to make the decision to go back. Day 6, day 7, day 8. By day 8, we're not walking together, we're not talking to each other, we're not looking at each other. And no, it's not because we're fighting. We're exhausted. Only ta moitié mort. We're on self-preservation mode. Nick goes a bit faster, waits for me, I reach him, and we keep going like this. So we get to the river. Nick, having crossed it, he looks at me to talk. We cannot hear each other. The river is much bigger because it's been 8 more days of snow melting. So Nick gestures that he's going to come back and get me. I gesture, no, stay there. One of us has crossed it. I will come to you. So I look at how I'm going to do this. And then I go in the river. And the second I step in the river, I feel the difference from 8 days ago. The current immediately grabs both of my legs, throws me off my feet with a force I could never be, on my back, head first. The water is coming. And then I feel this force grabbing me by the backpack and throwing me on the second side of the river. And that was Nick. And now we're on the ground, on the second side of the river, catching our breath, looking at each other, knowing what could have happened. I learned an important lesson that day. The biggest difference between day 1 and day 8 was not the river. The river was bigger, but the bigger difference was us in how we handled it. How on day 8, we did not do any of the things that usually would have protected us. We did not work together, plan together. I did not accept help. In the end, putting both of our safety at risk. And I'm telling you this because I see this as the same thing that happens to us in life. In times that were a bit easier, like day 1, we are naturally doing these things that will help protect and build our resilience. Where we get caught is on day 8, when we have larger, unexpected, bigger demands that come, and then we focus on all this and we let go of all the things that would have kept us safe. And these behaviors, these protective behaviors, is what we're going to talk about today. And for our time together, I have 2 suggestions. 1, just be with us. That in itself will be good for your brain. You could even use it to breathe, starting with air out, it all out, and then slowly in. Even if this is all you did, it would be good for you. Second recommendation. I'm going to talk about a few actions you can consider. Find one that you will between now and next week, and then maintain between today, Wednesday, and Friday, 48 hours, and then maintain it over time. That's where I'm going with this. And why do I insist on this? Well, number 1, if you don't change anything, nothing's going to change. Simple as that. But also research. We know from research that when we take action, the technical term is active coping, we are increasing our self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the belief I can influence this situation today. And the more you do this, and the fascinating point is whether what you do actually changes anything or not, it still increases the self-efficacy because you took action. But the more you do this, the more you're going to increase your optimism, which refers to the belief you can influence these things in the future as well. And the more you do this, you're increasing your agency, the belief that you can influence a number of things now and in the future. So when looking at resilience, that ability to go through adversity, come out even stronger, for a lot of us these days, it's a red light flashing saying low battery. And if that's you, you're not alone. The most recent publication by the American Psychological Association Stress in America survey paints the picture of the sustained survival mode that we've been in, with numbers like 58% reporting that their weight has changed in ways they didn't intend in the past two years. 58% report strains in their personal relationships. And 25% report, which means it is way more than 25, that they're using alcohol to cope. Not to mention that the rates of mental health disability absences that are increasing. And so we are at this inflection point, this point where both individually and collectively, we really want to take action, right? And when we think about workplace mental health, one of the ways to conceptualize it is to think about the overall context where we have the environment. So in this case, your work, and then you personally here. And within you personally, as humans, we've got thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And today, I'm going to focus on those behaviors here, but noting that this is part of a way larger equation. En ce qui concerne les comportements, la première chose que je vais vous dire, c'est pensez aux choses, aux comportements que vous aviez dans votre vie quand les choses allaient vraiment bien. Est-ce que ces comportements-là font encore partie de votre vie et sinon, il faut les rapporter? What I'm saying is the first thing is to think about is when you've been thriving in really good times, what kinds of behaviors were part of your life? And are they still here today? Could you bring them back? Maybe that is your next action. That being said, not all behaviors are created equal. There are 4, and you know them. I'm just going to mention them so we're all on the same page. We're going to focus on the implementation. The challenge is not in knowing, it's in doing. But there are 4 key behaviors. One is exercise, including cardio, strength training, and meditative type activity like yoga and meditation, nutrition, sleep, and relationships, spending time with people you enjoy spending time with. Now, don't be fooled by how simple and how much you know these 4 things. They have actually been shown by neuropsychological research, so looking at the brain, and when these are implemented on a consistent basis, individual sections of our brains function better. Not only that, they function better working together, which we need to find even more creative solutions and be even more resilient. So, reality check here. If you think about past week, so since last Wednesday, have you been doing these 4 things? Have you exercised at least 5 times half an hour? Have you eaten well most of the time, slept about 8 hours a night, and seen friends and people you enjoy spending time with? On a group this size, some of you are answering yes to this. And if that's you, your first action is to maintain this over time, no matter what, and possibly even help others do it, help us. But for most of us, we could do more. And I'm going to assume you trust the research. I'm also going to go on a limb and assume that no, you have not all been laughing, just like those pictures, like laughing all day, eating salads with friends. And you may think I'm joking, but really, what is there to laugh about? That could be the difference between striving and surviving. And actually, what would your life, your professional life specifically, look like if you were thriving? Well, let's find out. If you have something to write, take a few seconds to write maybe just 1, 2, maximum 3 words that would describe you if in the next couple of months you showed up with your best self in your work. If you brought the best of you in your work, what words come to mind? Take a few seconds, write them down, or you can just do it in your head. Okay. And even see how you feel writing these words, right? Sometimes it feels like it opens up possibilities, right? Now let's keep this. We're going to come back in a second. This exercise is not just an imagination exercise. Just the fact that you wrote this down is likely to push you even more towards attaining these goals. How do I know this? Science. Two researchers, Locke and Latham's actually here in Canada. These researchers have worked for decades on goal-setting theory. And more recently in their research, they incorporated the concept of priming. Priming refers to exposing our brains to words or images, but we now know images are even more powerful. So images that represent your goal. And just that increases the effectiveness of it reaching these goals. And you don't even need to think about it, visualize, focus on it, none of this. You just need to see it, be exposed to it. In one of the most famous studies now, what they did is they went to a call center where workers were contacting people to do fundraising. Then they created three conditions. First condition, the group was exposed to a priming image of a woman winning a race. So a high performance image. Second group, no picture. Third group, another picture, unrelated. What they observed is the individuals in the group that were primed, and they did not even know they were primed or what they were primed for. The picture was just there. They raised 60%, 60% more money. Now, imagine that, right? 60% more resilient, 60% more effective. This is just one study. It has been replicated because the researchers themselves were very skeptical. They replicated it. Other researchers replicated it in laboratories, different contexts, different teams, different organizations. The effect is consistently observed. And of course, we still need to set up our goals consciously in a way that we know works, as you all do being professionals. You know, they need to be clearly defined, measurable, attainable, all these things. Assuming you've done this, adding the priming will add wind in your sails. So what does that mean for us? Well, looking back at your words, the words that you wrote down here, can you think of a possible image that represents either one or the combination of all three? Say, for example, if you wrote, I want to be creative and bring new ideas, well, maybe an image could be the thinker, right? Or Lynn, could you show us that slide? I just want to give the audience some ideas of what that picture could look like, right? So you could find a picture either related to your three words, but you could also find images related to the behavioral goals that we talked about earlier, like increasing meditation. And then you just put that image, that could be your next action, at a place that you're going to see it, and you let priming operate. Thank you, Lynn. We can come back to just me on the screen. So that could be your next action. So what we've talked about resilience, that definition, some statistics, some theory, and some applications for you personally. If I take a moment to look at workplace-specific actions, one of the ways you can bring priming is even in how you end your emails. Do you end with, let me know if you have any problems, or looking forward to hearing your creative solutions? Primed for something different, right? And even going back to my comment earlier about the increase in rates of mental health disability absences, there are lots of actions that we can take in the workplace as individuals, teams, and organizations. In fact, let's see what you think on the poll here. Lynn, could you bring us the poll? And everyone, I'd like you to tell me what you think. So this is one study in particular, but still, it represents something that's been seen in other publications as well. How do workplaces most often support employees as it relates to mental health disability leaves? Click as many as you want, and maybe Lynn, once you see you have enough volume, show us the results. Providing emotional support, ensuring they have time for medical appointments, providing training to coworkers on depression and other mental health disorders, providing training to supervisors. So Lynn, tell us what we have. Look at this. You are good. This is a really good group. That is very rare. I don't know if you can see the results. I'll tell you just so you know. So basically, most people said the second, giving people time off for medical appointments. And then the group is split between the three others. So I'll tell you what the results of the study were, but I love that I'm going to say you got it right as a group. Often people think that the first two are the most frequently implemented, and they are 90% of the time. The first two, the medical appointment, and the other one, the emotional support, are the most frequently implemented. The least frequently implemented are actually the providing training to coworkers and providing training to leaders. 40% only provide these. And the training, is your largest opportunity. This is where we're having influence before anyone even goes on leave, while they're on leave for themselves and others, and when they return. Because as you can imagine, when we have even more mental health literacy, we're increasing our own awareness, our own advocacy for ourselves and others. We're decreasing stigma. We're increasing help-seeking behaviors for all of us, which we all need. And also at a broader level, we are increasing inclusion and sustainability. In a number of ways, we are now in a chronic way at our day 8 at the river. The demands continue to come from all kinds of directions. And if you have your next action, you're going to go through this river and your next one, and even help others through their river. You're going to grow and learn from these experiences. And in a number of ways, for me, resilience, the dynamic resilience at work and outside of work, it is an iterative process where we want to create and recreate our next actions. And in many ways, go back to the river and to the work of being human. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie-Hélène. This was, I made so many notes about the insights that you have shared. Thank you.
And your one action, Teresa, hopefully.
And my one action, yes, yes. I have a rowing machine that I do not use often enough. So you have inspired me to make sure that that's one of the things I revisit, especially in the next 48 hours. So I'll report back. We do welcome questions from the audience of what has got you thinking or might help you going forward. And I can share one that's come in so far. There's a question about how can you visualize on an image to help you stop thinking the worst and being less afraid?
So it's a great question, because right when we are in these situations, that's what happens. That's what comes in image and thoughts, and it can happen about anything. And it tends to happen a bit more when we're a bit more taxed, right? In moments in life when we are more relaxed, we can manage it usually often a bit more easily. So a couple of ideas. First, you can front load on the behaviors I was mentioning earlier, because they will influence how easily your brain can detach itself from the almost like catastrophic images, right? So the more you've done the exercise, the nutrition, these things impact your brain and will just help it work better. So I would still say keep that there. That's a solid basis you want to have. Then I would say, instead of looking for an image for not something, right? If I say don't think of a red shirt, we all thought of a red shirt. So take a moment to define for yourself what would be an image that you would like to think about instead. For example, and you'll think about what it is for you, but it could be, for example, feeling grounded, right? And finding an image for this. Yeah, one of the examples even I had, I think, was that sort of huge BC tree over there. So it could be that. It could be, and it depends on different individuals, but sometimes people sort of feeling like there's too many things going on, seeing just one thing that centers them can also be an image that then conveys this goal of being in the moment, being more mindful of one thing at a time, thinking realistically about what's going on. These are all ways in which you can center. And I will say, at times, we're so taxed that doing this on our own is tough. And so that could be a time where booking a session, using your employee and family assistance program, or connecting with a psychologist. Most people have benefits, many people have benefits, to just sometimes need a second head to figure out what gets in the way for you. That could be something to consider as well.
Thank you for that. And that actually leads right into our next question, where maybe you've got a few other ideas. Amanda is asking about when an organization is establishing a workplace wellness plan, what's one thing you would recommend to implement agency-wide?
Oh, well, I feel like like a gift, a kid with many gifts in front of them who has to pick which gift to open because they are all so interesting. It's a great question. Thank you for saying that's what I love about this question, is that it has an element of, let's make this simpler, please, right? Because it feels complex at times and massive. And so thank you for taking an approach of, let's find something that everyone can do that has an impact, and that's solid now. I'm going to give you two, just if I can, because it gives you more options, and they're equally, I think, relatively easily doable. And of course, because the short answer to this would be to first look at your data, look at where is the biggest impact for which action. So there's the tying to your own data. But assuming that a generic answer, I would go for number one, increasing compassion in the workplace. Self-compassion, so you can do this for yourself. That's where it starts, and then doing it for others. Because we know from studies on compassion that it will have an impact on civility and respect in the workplace, which we then know has an impact on psychological health and safety in the workplace. So I would go for the compassion there. This for those reasons. And it's implementable because it doesn't cost anything, right? You can get started. If you want it organizational wide, you may want to have conversations a bit more about it with the group, but it's doable, doesn't cost a lot of money. The other one would be appreciation, expressing more often more appreciation, because again, it's an easy one to implement, and that's not the only thing. I'm not going to say expressing appreciation is the cure to burnout, certainly. However, we do know that it does decrease burnout rates. And it is something, and as you can imagine, it also influences workplace cultures and all these things. As you can also imagine, it is not sufficient. I cannot stress that enough. If it was that simple, right? However, it is an ingredient, and it is one that's in our hands. That could be your next action.
Excellent. Thank you. Two things that organizations could use right away in terms of mindset as well. And I would just, I know we're getting right at the end here, and there's another, just a comment from the audience about also something that helps is recognizing what are the personal core values of team members, and then based on those values, building goals around those ideas. So thank you to the audience for sharing ideas as well.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much, Marie-Hélène, for helping us make our way through these personal and workplace rivers, the challenges that are there, and see the possibilities. And for us at NSB, actually, Pursue Possibility is our core value theme of the month. So you've made us think about it in a different way as well. Thank you.
Love it. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, everyone. Great questions. And good luck with your actions.
Yes, indeed.